to our first episode of Mom to Mom, brought to you by Payson Premier Dental. And moms, because we're all moms, talking to other moms. So Mom to Mom. I'm Sarah, and I have two kids, Ellie, who is 14, and Will, who is 12.
And I'm Glory, and I'm a mom of a 2.5-year-old. He'll be 3 the end of August.
I'm Rachel, and I have 3 boys. My oldest is Joseph, he is 16, Noah is 13, and Matthew is 10.
I'm Perry. I am mom to Jonathan, who is 13, almost 14, and Grace, who is 10.
So anyway, Perry is here. She's a speech pathologist. She specializes in age birth through 5. And then Rachel here is a pediatric nurse at Phoenix Children's Hospital. She has been trained in everything. Right now, she is working in the ER, so she's seen it all. So, who wants to start?
Sure. All right, Miss Perry. So you're here to talk to us about what? You said it so good just a minute ago.
Well, today I'm going to talk a little bit about typical speech and language development, and then maybe when those things aren't happening as we would expect them to, so when to seek help from other people or other resources, and then share some resources with you all. So generally what we look for kids in their speech and language development is typically, as they're infants and they're starting to babble and coo, we see those things. We see them starting around 9 months, maybe some of that babbling, like the ba ba ba, ma ma ma. And typically by 1 year, we would expect kids to start saying their first words where it has meaning, like mama, instead of just babbling, actually becomes mama to mean mom. Or dad, 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 dad actually becomes dad, dad to mean dad. So that's typically what we see by age 1. Then between 12 and 18 months, we see babies starting to expand their vocabularies, adding a few new words here and there. So by 18 months, we would expect kids to be using around 10 words. And also, when you think of kids developing speech and language, you also want to think they're talking, but also how are they understanding language? How are they understanding what you're saying to them? And so we know kids understand way more than they're able to say at those ages. So around 12 to 18 months, if you say, oh, look at the ball, kids will turn their heads and they'll actually look for what you're labeling. And then they'll start following simple directions. Clap your hands, and they start clapping, or wave bye-bye. And a lot of that comes from imitation of parents. You're teaching your kids how to do those things. Grandma and grandpa come over and you say wave bye-bye, and you're showing them, then kids imitate that. And that's also a way they're actually learning language. A lot of parents don't realize that. It's an actual physical movement, but they're actually associating words with the actions. So that's what we see between 12 and 18 months. Then, usually between 18 and 24 months, you see this huge language explosion where kids are adding words. Sometimes every day they're saying new words. So by 24 months, some kids are using 50 to 100 single words, and they're also starting to combine words together. So they might have been saying more, they might have been saying cookie, but now they're actually putting those 2 words together to make a short phrase like more cookies. So that's around 2 years old. Between 2 and 3, we see another language explosion as far as putting short sentences together. They might start asking questions. And typically during this age, you'll still hear a lot of errors as far as maybe their grammar goes. We see a lot of kids maybe saying like him running instead of he is running. And that's, for 2-year-olds, that's totally an appropriate error. So a lot of parents get worried. They think, oh, they're not saying these certain sounds yet, or they're not saying these certain phrases in the right way yet. And for kids between 2 and 3, it's usually okay. There are some things that as a speech pathologist we look for specifically, and I can get into that a little bit later. But between 3 and 4, most adults should be able to understand your child. So if you're still hearing a lot of speech errors, or you go to grandma and grandpa's house and grandma and grandpa can't understand them, or they're at preschool and their teachers are having a hard time understanding them, typically we would think about 25% intelligible by age 3 and 4. So that kind of goes into when you might want to seek help. So if you're not seeing by age 1 that your baby's babbling or imitating, even you babbling to them, saying ba ba ba, and they say it back to you, or even some movements like sticking your tongue out or doing the little raspberries, you know, and if they're not kind of starting to imitate that by age 1, that's a red flag that we look for language development. Again, if they're not starting to use those single words or they don't have a couple words, especially by 18 months if they're not using any single words, that would be a great time to look for some resources. And then as they get older, if you're really having a hard time understanding them, that is another red flag as well. So some of those resources would be, the whole state of Arizona has a program called the Arizona Early Intervention Program, and it's a birth to 3 program. And each county has some different referral processes, but that could be something your pediatrician should definitely be able to refer you to. But you don't actually need a pediatrician referral. You as a parent can refer your own kid. You don't have to wait for someone else to say, yes, I think you should. And I think that's a big thing, mom to mom. Like if you really feel something is not right and something maybe isn't developing the way you'd expect it to be, you know, ask your pediatrician. And if they think, well, just wait, it's okay to wait, the best time to intervene with these kiddos is early. Early intervention is key to getting them, you know, on that developmental curve where we would expect them to be. So go ahead and, you know, you can call that program yourself too. You don't need a referral from anyone. And then once kids turn 3 to 5 is considered child find, and that's through your school district. So every school district has a child find process and referral, so they can either say, you know, come in for a screening, or we want to do some further in-depth evaluations. And then depending on how the evaluation goes, they could qualify for services. Typically birth to 3 services are in-home, so they actually come to the home and work with the parents and the child. So it's nice because it teaches the parents how to help develop speech and language for their kid. And then the 3 to 5 is typically like a preschool type program. So, you know, there are some differences in how services are provided, but that's the general.
Which we do have here, down at JRE, they have the preschool program, and it's great. I've actually worked in there before, and they do screenings, and then when you qualify, you come, and yep, yeah, and it's good, it's good. So Rachel, you have a story about that personally.
I do.
Right?
So my youngest did not start saying any words really until he was about 2 and a little bit, like maybe 2 and 1 month. So I was concerned, so I actually called the Arizona Intervention and got in touch with them, and they came to the house and they started working with my youngest, and within 2 weeks his vocabulary had increased and it was very successful, and he followed all the way into the preschool program and graduated out of that with not needing any speech issue work at all. So it's very, very, very helpful.
Yeah. We see that over and over is when kids get in early, by the time they reach kindergarten, they actually don't need to be like in speech classes in the elementary level because they've already gotten that boost that they were needing.
And those services were all provided free of charge.
Yeah.
For me, for my family, for my son, everything. So
Yeah, that's good. And what about James? Where do you see him?
James is doing really good.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed. My sister-in-law is a speech pathologist also.
Oh, okay.
And so one of the questions that I had for her was, what can I do when he's a baby? You know, and they said, she said, just talk to him.
Yeah.
That's what my best friend said also, is talk to him, talk to him, talk to him. So I talked to my son so much. I was very blessed to stay at home with him for a long time, but I mean, everything from, okay, James, we're gonna make a sandwich and we're gonna have lettuce on it. And so we have to wash the lettuce, and the reason we have to wash the lettuce is because they spray it with pesticides. And I mean, I would just go on and on and on. You know, everything I thought I pretty much said out loud. But
Yeah.
he can have, I have full-blown conversations with him. You know, he'll be 3 at the end of August. So he's doing very good. But I think that's important for new moms who don't know what to do, because I didn't. You know, I didn't spend a lot of time with kids when I was younger. So like what noises to make and just to help prompt that
Mm-hmm.
speech.
That's when I was working in the early intervention program. You know, I'd go in and the parents would be like, what are you going to do as the speech pathologist to, you know, help my kid? And like, well, I'm going to teach you actually about talking to your kids all the time. That's exactly the advice I would give you too. Like, just talk and talk, narrate. We call it narrating. Like, okay, I'm going to go put my shoes on. Oh, I'm putting one shoe on. Now I'm going to put the other shoe on. You know, and just, you know, narrating about what the kid's doing as well. You know, say they're playing with trucks. You know, oh, you're going to make your truck go fast. Oh, you can make it go slow, and just labeling everything, narrating everything. I think sometimes too, parents think, oh, I have to label everything. This is a paper, this is a ball, this is this. But we really also want to expand it into verbs and descriptive words too. So those are always, you know, I think we think, oh, I have to just name everything in the room for him. And you don't actually, it's just more of what is happening, what's going on. Just always talking. And a lot of my parents I worked with too, I taught them how to play with their kids. You know, you kind of assume as a parent, well, it's a kid, he should know how to play. And sometimes they don't. And so you really want to get down on the floor with them, really get eye level, eye contact, and just whatever they're doing, just kind of expand on that too. So that's another thing I wanted to say. You know, if your kid is using single words, you can always model then a 2-word phrase. So you're kind of always modeling what's next in development. So if he says, you know, truck, and that's right, blue truck. You know, or he's playing with blocks and blocks fall down. He says, uh-oh, and you can say, uh-oh, fall down, you know, things like that. So you're always giving them kind of that next thing that they might say as far as being a parent and doing that modeling during play too. So talking and playing are the 2 most important things you can do with kids to develop speech and language skills, for sure.
Okay, so what about this? So when we love to do this to Perry. So what about when my husband especially, right? No, but this is a real one. What about when Will was? We would always do that when I was changing his diaper, you know, because I had his full attention, and I would do this. I would say, J, G, and he would go, J, beep. I think is what it was. And he would get the sound, but then totally get the word wrong.
Right.
So, like, there's a progression too with sounds.
There
right?
is. There's a developmental kind of order of how kids develop sounds. And so this is probably the number 1 question parents have, or their number 1 concern. Like, you know, as a 3-year-old mom, you know, the moms come in, well, you can't say R's and L's and S's, and we say, it's okay. Because developmentally, sounds come in a certain order. So those first sounds you're looking for, and if you listen to babies babbling, those are the sounds they're making. The B's, the N's, the P's, T's, D's, like the mama, dada, all of those. And then the later developing sounds, you know, like then K's and G's come in. The S, there's some, you know, if you have a kid that says S, like a little lisp, you know, up until age 5, it's really okay. They'll probably get it. And if you look for it too, so say maybe the kid says, you know, slide for slide. But then if he says bats and he makes the S on the end of the word, it's a great sign because you know he's actually able to produce that sound. He's just still working on doing it at the beginnings of words, in the middles of words, and at the ends of words. So that's something as a speech pathologist we look for. Can they actually make the sound anywhere in their speech? And then if they can, that lets us know it's just developing and it's an error that's okay. Especially R's. R's are the bane of the speech pathologist.
Because Will sounded like he was from Boston
Right.
for a long time.
Yeah. Yes. When I worked in elementary school, I mean, I had kids from 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. We were still working on R's. So if your baby or preschooler cannot say R's, it's okay. It's all right.
They sound like you're from Boston,
Right,
but
yeah.
you're nowhere near it.
Right. But before kinder, what you really want to see is them making those sounds I mentioned before, but F's, the K and the G, all of those. And then anything with a blend, like an SH or a TH, those are also a little bit later developing sounds, like age 6 and 7. So those aren't sounds that I would really worry about. But talking about Will, how he could make the sound, but then when he went to make it in the word, it's also kids have habits, right? He can say it in a j by itself, but when he goes in to say it in the word, how he's always said it, it's a hard habit to break. So sometimes I tell parents too, I said, just try for 5 minutes to say your R's completely wrong. And that's what really, when we're asking kids to fix their speech sounds, that's what we're asking them to do, is just pay attention constantly to what they're saying. And so you'll notice, if you ever try it, you get, you struggle for words and it slows you down. And so it's an interesting thing for parents to be like, oh, I didn't realize fixing a sound was so much work for them. So.